Hey, friend, welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome home. I'm Francis, and this is the Unexpected Detour. Where in life detours are inevitable. Let me ask you something. What would you do if, in a matter of moments, everything you knew, everything you built was suddenly gone? Not slowly, not over time, but in an instant. Today's episode is about one of those moments because sometimes the detour doesn't knock gently. Sometimes it comes like a storm. Today, I'm joined by Jon Edlin, a tornado survivor whose life changed overnight and what he learned that in that moment goes far beyond survival. Jon, welcome to the Unexpected Detour.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Okay, so you want to tell us a little bit about yourself so we'll know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's just like you mentioned. 6 years ago was hit by an EF3 tornado, and my family and I were in the hallway when it happened. And this was 1 a.m. in the middle of the night. Wasn't expecting it, but one of those things where we got to our safe spot, which is away from all the windows and all the glass and everything. And my 5 year old and 7 year old were right there with my wife and I, huddled together and just trying not to get sucked out by the tornado. And then, of course, after something like that happens, we were lucky that we were all, healthy and didn't get hurt by the tornado, but we had lost everything. And so, just like I love the name of your podcast, Unexpected Detour, because now everything's changed. Our house was completely destroyed. Our two cars were destroyed, and our whole life just changed in a matter of seconds. And so it was a hard. It's been a hard 6 years.
How did your kids, were they okay? How did they respond?
Well, it because it happened at 1 AM, it was kind of, a blessing in a sense because I don't think they really knew they were, in the middle of kind of being asleep and then, gotten kind of woken up to, my wife and I picking them up and taking them into the hallway, and then when it went over top of us, it was definitely really loud, but even when we talk to them now, they're like, "Yeah, we weren't really sure what was going on. Were we in a dream? Were we not?" And then after the tornado happened, obviously they lost everything. My daughter's 8th birthday was 2 days after the tornado, but what they learned from that was that community comes around you and community loves on you, and so she got more presents probably than she's ever gotten in her life on that 8th birthday.
Mm. Okay, when the tornado hit, what do you remember most? What did it feel like in that moment?
Yeah, so it was the most intense amount of pressure to start off with, right? So everybody talks about how it sounds like a train, but it sounds more like 5 jet engines that just kind of rumble your chest. And it's so loud and you can feel it. And then the pressure drops. And so my ears popped. And then all the windows pop, 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 pop. And then the wind comes and it starts blowing and pushing insulation, glass, mud, everything you can imagine starts to kind of shove underneath the doors for us, right? And so luckily that's why you stay in the middle of your house so you can be away from all of that. And it just was the most amount of wind I've ever felt. And then as it goes over you and it starts to go away, you feel the suction. You feel it sucking you out. So I literally was feeling it sucking me back, kind of like if you've ever been on a water tube on the back of a boat. It's that feeling where you're just like, "Okay, I'm just gonna let go." And that was literally the feeling that I had. I was like, "It's going to suck me out. I'm going to get sucked out, thrown in my front yard. I hope that my family can stay, here and not get sucked out with me." But, you're just kind of at the mercy of it. You're just like, "Okay, this is gonna happen." And then it just stopped. And after the tornado, it's dead silence. No rain, no thunder, no lightning, just dead silence. And then that's where you start to realize, like, "Okay, we gotta get out of this house because it's unsafe." And you expect 911 to be there, the fire trucks and the police cars and all that, but this tornado had already been on the ground for 10 miles and went directly through, like, downtown, and so they were all worried about that. So when I called 911, they didn't even answer. So we had to figure out how to get out of that house safely.
So there was no rescue teams or anything available.
No,
They
they
got
didn't.
hit too then.
Yeah, yeah, they were busy with, kind of a more populated area, so our neighborhood, they didn't get there for 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. It's allergy season.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
understandable.
So you already answered the question about were your children with you. You said yes. How to
Mhm.
protect them physically and emotionally, though.
Yeah, so, in the moment, I did kind of what I learned in school, which was, if a tornado comes around you, you cover the back of your head. So literally got on top of them and we covered the back of our heads, and that kept us from getting glass or insulation kind of shoved into our head, right? Because that's going to be the most vulnerable part. We did get some scratches, all up and down our back and our arms and everything, but it did keep us protected from getting more serious injury. And then when you think about after a tornado, you still have tornado season that's right around the corner. I mean, this happened in March. Tornado season is going to be March, April, May. Really, April, May is going to be kind of the more intense part. So there were still tornado watches, tornado warnings that were happening after the tornado. And so that was something where we had to figure out how do we lower storm anxiety? Because it's understandable that they would be scared of storms. And so we came up with this idea called the old man story. And the old man story is basically telling them how rare it is that a tornado would even happen, and that an old man has to have all the ingredients to bake a cake and has to bake that cake in an oven, which a lot of times the old man gets lost and doesn't get to the oven on time. So it was a way for us to tell them, like, okay, there is a chance. But then as we got closer, we say, oh, the old man got lost. And oh, the old man doesn't have all the ingredients. So just help them understand how rare what they went through is. And so that was important, I think, for them to be able to kind of get over that anxiety, because the more you know, the less anxious you are. And so that really helped, I think, with their emotional capacity after that.
So they teach this in school for the kids too?
Well, ideally, I mean, that's a little bit why I started, my organization. I just started it actually this year, and it's called Edlin Tornado Solutions, because there's not a lot of that type of thing. That was something that I was just trying to help my kids understand and just create it. I mean, it's always talked about how there needs to be the right ingredients for a tornado, but I kind of just took it a step further for what they needed, which was old man and he gets lost, and kind of help with those steps. So I teach that online, on an online tornado safety course, on tornadosmart.com. And then the idea is, yeah, to be in more schools and be able to teach that, because storm anxiety is definitely a thing, especially if you live in Tornado Alley and Dixie Alley. And if your kids see the news or hear about it, it can be very scary.
Oh, okay. People often talk about survival, but not always about the emotional impact. What did you struggle with mentally after that experience?
Yeah, I definitely struggled with understanding why this would happen to me, because the thing with a tornado is that it's not like a hurricane where it wipes out an entire city, or like huge miles and miles of destruction. It's typically very targeted, and to the point where my neighbors didn't have a window missing, to the point where my shed didn't have a shingle missing. It went directly over us, almost like we were targeted. And so your mind tries to comprehend that and tries to understand, did God send this to me? And of course, you have people who say stuff like, what kind of sin did you commit? Why did God send you this tornado? That type of thing. Also, we didn't get killed. And on this particular tornado, it went 63 miles and it killed 25 people. So then you have a little bit of survivor's remorse, and you say, okay, well, why didn't we get killed? And then if you want to say, like in a news, interview, do you want to say, well, God protected us? Well, maybe, but then what about that family who lost their 5-year old? Did God not protect them? Did they not say the right thing? Right. And so it just starts to make you question things and start to open up like this things that you thought you knew, maybe you didn't. And it's a little bit more complex than that. And so that's, yeah, emotionally, you're dealing with all of that, your faith being rocked and trying to understand why this happened and why it couldn't have gone a different way.
And I was going to ask you that too, because I know when things happen, people blame God, but that's
Mm,
nature right there.
that's right.
That's a
That's
part
right.
of nature.
That's
And,
right.
and they live out there, so they already know that this is
Hmm.
tornado alley, so it's
Hmm.
bound to happen. I
That's right.
never knew it was a long season. I thought it was just occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so it's for like 3 months then.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, so you still got April and May to
Hmm.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, what
That's
did
right.
it look like when you went outside?
When we went outside after the tornado hit, it
Mhm.
was calm, eerie calmness. Of course, all the electricity is out. And it looked like a bomb went off, honestly. There was an orange sky. It was quiet. It smelled like propane and cut wood and mud. And you'd think again, you'd have neighbors that come out and are there to help, and neighbors that are like, "Hey, are you guys okay?" That kind of thing. But everybody's shocked. Everybody doesn't know what's going on. And so they all stayed in their houses. And honestly, it's not very safe to be out after the tornado hits, right? Because there's down power lines everywhere. There's trees everywhere, and so it's really hard even to get to the neighbor's house. Now, we lived in a neighborhood where we were all on acre plots, so that made it even more difficult maybe than if you live in a
Right.
neighborhood where you're closer. But still, like our closest neighbor friend, she was hunkered down in her bathroom holding her dog and scared to go because, we had a dog too. Did we think to back the leash? Did we think to have the leash? No, of course not. So then what are you gonna do? Let your dog run around and be around the down power lines and everything? So you try to find a safe place for them to be. And so it's all those things that you're trying to like take care of after this. The adrenaline's kicking in, and you're trying to figure out what to do. And a lot of times you don't go and help your neighbor because you're just trying to survive yourself. So afterwards, there was not a lot of help and screaming and all this kind of stuff. It was just silence.
So the help that they don't come out and help, I guess, because 'cause they're still in shock.
Can be,
So
yeah.
it's not a matter of being selfish, it's just
Mm-mm.
the
Right.
whole shock of this happening.
That's right.
You've grown up in that though?
No, I mean, not necessarily. So, I mean, I definitely grew up in Tornado Alley, and I think that's where I started to get real cocky about it. Like, I knew tornadoes. I would be the guy out there looking at tornadoes, and following all the storm chasers and watching Twister. And, I just loved tornadoes. I thought they were so cool. But when it happens at night, you don't go out there and look at it. When it happens at night, it's terrifying.
Right.
And I had certain ideas about it. Even like I even thought like we live in a valley, and so if a tornado came, it would just hop over us. That was a myth that I believed. And there's lots of myths that people believe. And so that was one of them. And it literally obviously didn't. It didn't jump over us. It went right on
Right.
top of us. And so the valley didn't matter. People say, oh, if it's around a river, like that won't matter. They can't jump over a river. Well, that's not true. It goes over rivers all the time. So you just got to educate yourself and make sure that you know that, because you can get in a bad situation thinking like, "Oh, it'll never happen to me," but then when it does, it does.
Wow. That's really that's something. Okay, let's see. How do you help families prepare for disasters? And what are two things every family should do right now that most people overlook?
Yeah. So, right after the tornado, there were a lot of people who wanted me to share my story because it's an intense story, and they just kind of wanted to hear about it. So I would, and then they would ask those questions like, "Oh, what? Oh my gosh!" Like I was thinking about that. What would I do? And I had to really think about that because I was just surviving, just doing what I did, and didn't really like take time to think about that. And so, a lot of times what I tell people, and I decided to go ahead and write a book called Tornado Survival Guide. It's on Amazon. So if you put in my name and then you say Tornado Survival Guide, that pops up. And it's real short because I wanted to keep the cookies on the bottom shelf. I wanted everybody just to be able to read it real quick and be able to get the information. But that first thing is kind of what I already talked about. Don't believe the myths. Because if you believe the myths, then you're not going to go ahead and prepare. And so nothing really matters if you're just believing it's gonna hop over you or you're by a river, so it won't hit you, that kind of thing. So you can't
So
believe the
those are
myths.
the myths that they would say.
Those are the myths. Those are the myths.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So I have a whole list of them and why they're not true and why they're scientifically backed up, to where that's not the truth. And so because again, people are like, "Oh, yeah, I would prepare for a tornado, but it's not gonna hit me because whatever."
well, they'll say
So
they're protected by God, but it's an
right?
act of nature. So,
Right. That's
yeah.
right. You got to prepare. And so that would be so you don't believe the myths, and then that makes you prepare, and that would be the number one thing is have a plan. So you want to know where you're going, and luckily we did. We did know where to go. We knew to go in the hallway, away from windows, so that because if we would have been an outside window, when you think about how tornadoes happen, they, bust out all the windows and then those outside walls cave in. And when I opened up the door to my bedroom after the tornado, there was a brick wall on top of our bed. Ceiling
Wow.
was gone, walls are gone, and the wall is literally on top of my bedroom. So if I wouldn't have gotten up, we would have hung out there, boom. brick wall on top of us. When I opened up my daughter's room, brick wall sucked out, no ceiling, no anything, right? And so it's just a reminder of how powerful these things are. And so when you don't believe the myths and you understand that these are something that should be taken seriously, then you got to have a plan. Say, this is where we're going. This is our safe spot. And then go ahead and pack what I call a tornado go bag, which is now what my company sells at Edlin Tornado Solutions. We sell the course and then we sell a go bag that has just what you need because you can buy survival kits on Amazon, but they're packed with like food and water and shovels and things that you really just don't need. I mean, when you're hit by a tornado, we did wait 3 hours to get help, but Walmart's still open down the road. So I don't need
Mhm. Your
water.
car was operable?
My car wasn't, but we had a friend who came and got us.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
saying we're not stuck out there for 5 days with no food. That
No,
doesn't
no, I was
happen with
just
tornado.
wondering, did your
Yeah.
car get a
It got smashed by a tree. Yeah. Both cars were out in the back. They weren't in the garage, and they got smashed by a gigantic tree, both of them completely crushed. And it took, like, 2 weeks to get that tree off
we
of
don't
me.
have those in New York, but
Uh-huh.
when it goes like that, it's really sucking things up into that, funnel?
Yep. Yeah, it sucks when it throws it around, and so, like, we had stuff in our yard from 2 blocks down the road, and there were things that we never found because it just sucks it up, and then it throws it wherever it wants to throw it, sometimes 3, 4, or 5 miles away.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but, yeah, I mean, I would say that's the main thing is you gotta have that plan, and then you gotta have the things that you need in that go bag for light, like, I really wish we would've had a lantern. I really wish we would've had a first aid kit just to make sure that we were all okay, a whistle in case we got trapped under debris, and then also, just having, the knowledge is the most important thing of what you actually need.
So no building material can withstand this tornadoes, huh?
Well, so, the basement is the best place to go because you're not gonna have walls that cave in on you.
Right. But I'm
But it's
saying you got
yeah.
a brick house,
Oh, yeah. Yep,
and
that's right.
that didn't that oh, it doesn't
Mhm.
help.
No,
So that's
now
what I'm
there's
saying.
different levels, yeah, different levels of tornadoes that happen, so you could be in an EF0 tornado where your house would be fine. EF3 is really where the walls start coming down, then EF5,
That's it.
you're just that's not good, but, that only happens every 10 years or so, so
Oh, the EF5?
mhm, yeah, yep, that
You've
was
never
like Joplin.
experienced that one, though.
No, no, in fact, I've talked to
Oh,
a few
God.
people, survivors of the Joplin tornado, which, is close by. It's in Joplin, Missouri, and so this was 2011, so it was a long time ago, but I've talked to some survivors, and they talked about how that first wave that went through, like I was talking about, where you feel that suction and all that, and then it's eerie quietness, but because the tornado was so big, they came again. So they thought it was over, but they were just in the eye of it. So luckily for us, with an EF3, that was not the case. But for an EF5, it was like they felt the silence, but then they were just in the middle of the tornado. So some crazy, it's very, very powerful.
I learned that from Twister, the
Yeah,
EF5.
exactly. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And
Twizzlers was great.
everything is gone, the whole thing,
Yep.
everything, and you see the stuff going up there, and
Mhm.
also the Wizard of Oz.
Yep. Yeah. Of course. Of
When the
course.
house goes up in it, oh,
Uh-huh.
that's my favorite movie, so
Oh,
yeah, and I
yes.
remember the house and everything was in there.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, okay. For someone listening right now who feels unprepared or overwhelmed by fear, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, education is the most important thing. A lot of the fear and everything just comes because you don't understand it. You don't know when to be scared or when not to. So, for example, if you hear thunder in the middle of the night and your body reacts with anxiety and fear and you start freaking out, like that's not helping anybody and that's not helping your body. And so, but if you know that when that thunder goes, you can look at your phone, you can pull up, the local news, you can pull up social media and that type of thing and know, okay, I'm okay. And then you also can say, if I'm not okay, like if that thunder was actually the tornado's headed this way, you know what your plan is. You know where you're going to be going when you're safe. You know what you're going to have with you so that you're safe. And so it's just kind of knowing that, preparing for that. It's not like tornadoes come out of nowhere and nobody was expecting it. You know, if you live in Tornado Alley and Dixie Alley, you know that they tell you way in advance. In fact, they get meteorologists get in trouble a lot because they're like, there's a chance of a tornado," and then nothing ever happens. So they're like, "Whatever, I'm not gonna believe
Oh,
that."
it sounds like the snow that we're always getting here.
Right.
And they said you're gonna have a blizzard, and the
Yeah.
blizzard doesn't come,
Yeah.
but then when you least expect it, here it
Mhm.
comes.
That's right.
It's just like here with snow.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Mhm.
same thing. So back to the part you said that you all got in the living room. The roof didn't come off the living
So it
room?
was actually the hallway.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
so
hallway.
so the hallway was, you know, the innermost part of the house. So the roof did come off on the sides. And so
Okay.
that's just kind of the way tornadoes work, right? Like, I mean, they are one of those things where they will lift up the roof and that type of thing. But if you're in the innermost part of the structure, you're going to have the best chance, right? Now, if it was again EF5, like we wouldn't have had a chance. I wouldn't be here today if it was an EF5. But because it was an EF3, we were in the best spot. And that's all you can do is get in the best spot, you know? Now, you know, we have a basement and so we can withstand an EF5, but an EF3, you know, you just want to prepare for whatever you can. And so that would be in the hallway. So even though the roof blew off, you know, on our house, we did not see an open sky. It was still covered. The drywall was there, and most of the roof that was off was on the sides.
Well, tell us about your organization so other people who
Mhm.
are listening and they live in that tornado alley, they'll be versed on how they can get involved with
Yeah.
you because you're doing wonderful things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a blast, honestly. I've loved putting this bag together. It's called a Tornado Go bag. So you can go to tornadogobag.com or you can go to tornadosmart.com because the differentiator of this bag compared to other ones, like I mentioned, it's filled with the things you need and nothing you don't. So it comes with my book, the Tornado Survival Guidebook. It comes with a lantern. It comes with a whistle, comes with a first aid kit, all the things you need, but then extra room to put in extra things. And the education, because it comes with an online course, the education to be able to say, ooh, this pouch here is where I put like my pills or I put my dog's leash, you know, if you have a dog. So it doesn't come with the dog's leash because I don't know what size your dog is.
Right,
Uh,
right.
you know, but it gives you that knowledge. And then you can watch the 6 session course online. It's $40 if you don't buy the bag, but it's free if you do buy the bag. And then you can get that education and start to think through those things, build your family plan. Then you can hang up that tornado go bag in your safe spot. And what's really cool is I encourage customers to hang that up, take a picture of it hanging up in their safe spot. Cause that's the real thing, right? Like people can buy it and then it just sits in their closet. And then when there's a tornado warning, they're like, where is it? You got to
So
hang
like
it
where
up in your
your
safe
safe
spot.
spot was in that hallway. That's where it
That's right.
would be.
That's where I would hang it up. It even comes with a hanger to hang it up
Oh, okay. So
because
you're well prepared.
I'm so adamant about that. I'm just
Right,
like, you're not just going to buy this and then keep it in your closet. Like you're going to buy it and you're going to put it because putting it in that spot means you've thought through why am I putting in this spot? It's because it's
right.
the best spot, hopefully, and because you've learned from me where the best spot is.
Yeah.
And so you hang that up, you take a picture of it, you send it to info@tornadogobag.com, and then we send you a free mug and say thank you.
Oh,
You know, like a little coffee mug.
say, is that the bag
Mhm.
you have back there?
That's the bag, yeah, that's it right there on the hook and everything, and I'm in the basement, so, you know,
Oh,
that's what we do, and so then every time you take that sip of coffee and you see our little, you know, logo there, the Edlin Tornado Solutions, you're like, "Okay, I'm safe," and every time your kids see our logo and see you sipping out of that coffee, they know that you've taken that extra step to make sure that they're safe during a tornado, so when they hear that thunder at night, they're not gonna be like, "Ooh, I hope it's not a tornado." They're gonna be like, "Nope, mom and dad know what's up." And if it is, we'll go to our safe spot and we're good.
okay. So
Helps.
that's why it's hung in the safe spot because
Mhm,
that's why it's in the basement because the kids
mhm.
know that's where you're going.
That's it. That's exactly
Oh,
right. Yeah, it all
that
works
was a
together.
smart idea. That
Well,
was
it's the things
very
I wish I would have done
ingenious of you.
because, you know, I had about 5 minutes to get where I needed to go, and if I would have been looking for that go bag, that would have been a problem, and the other thing that I teach is, you know, it's got room for your laptop because our laptop was literally smashed by that
Oh,
huge brick wall that I was talking about. So I say, before you go to bed, like, before went to bed, it said that there was a tornado watch, there's a chance of a tornado, but my wife and I didn't care, right? We were just like, "Whatever." And but if we would have now, we would have listened and we would have put our laptop in that bag. We would put our keys and wallet in that bag. We would put our dog's leash and
right,
medicine and that kind of thing, and just made sure it was. And then in the morning, if we woke up and there was no tornado, fine. But if there was, you know, those are the things we wish we would have done.
right. Is your dog okay?
Yeah, yeah, no, she did great. So it was so amazing. We had a friend who came by 2 days afterwards and was like, "Can I help you with anything?" And I said, "Well, my dog's still got like insulation in her fur." And so he took her to get a bath, and that was really special, and she got all cleaned up, and they gave her a free bath, and so she did great. Now, unfortunately, she was old, when it happened. She was 11, and she died from cancer at 13, so just a couple years, yeah, but so she survived a tornado and, was great to just have around, and she kinda found her way in that safe spot too, followed
Get
us
it?
right there.
Have you gotten another dog?
Not yet, not
Oh,
yet, yeah, yeah.
so you go to schools and all
Mhm.
the hospitals
I don't go to the hospitals, just the schools to teach the
to teach the
kids.
children.
Mhm. Yeah, mainly
'Cause
that old main story.
it could happen in the daytime too, right?
That's right. That's right.
There is no time, no
No,
daytime, nighttime,
that's
anytime
right.
this can occur.
That's right. I've seen them
Oh,
happen at 5 a.m. in the morning, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Obviously, I think the nighttime ones are the scariest,
mhm.
for sure. But yeah, they can happen at any point. So you can just always pay attention to the local news. And, because I know people hear it and they do what I did, just like, okay, whatever, probably not.
So even if they say it or they're predicting it, you have to be preparedness ready.
Mhm. That's right.
You never know when it's gonna come.
That's right.
Oh, I didn't know it was Missouri too. I only knew about Kansas.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm about 2 blocks, west of Missouri, so state line's real close. Like in Kansas City, it's kind of both. Like the
But
Kansas City Chiefs are in Missouri, so we're right
but
there.
they always would say that tornado alley, they've
Yeah.
always pictured Kansas
Oh,
as
okay. Yeah,
this tornado alley, so I figured
yeah.
that was the only state that had 'em, but I know
Mhm.
Oklahoma City
That's
gets
right. Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri,
Texas?
Arkansas. Yep, yep.
Really?
Uh-huh. Texas,
Mm.
Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then you got Dixie Alley, which is gonna be like Alabama, Tennessee, even Kentucky nowadays, there's a lot more up
Oh,
there. So you just gotta pay attention, and make sure that you are prepared and that you got your plan and that you're teaching your kids that it's okay
mhm,
to be, aware of this
right.
and because we got a plan.
You think that global warming has something to do with all of
I
this?
think it absolutely could. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's changing.
'Cause
Everything is
that's what
changing.
I said. It's too many things
Mhm.
that are out of the ordinary that are happening.
That's
And
right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, this doesn't look right. Like
Yeah.
today here, it was 70 degrees. We're
Yeah.
still in we're still in March. And
Right.
we're in April, which it shouldn't be 70.
No.
And then
Yep.
tomorrow it'll be 40.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I said, this is all this global warming.
Mhm.
Not to cut you off, but one year we had the snow and everybody went outside and was burning it.
Mm.
Wasn't snow. They were like, yeah, they said the government
Mm.
it's snow because when they burnt it, it burned. Snow doesn't burn.
Whoa.
It's
Yeah, snow
water.
does not burn.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's water. But this time it burned. I was like, oh my
Huh.
God. And my
Wow.
son was like, Ma, I told you that was not real snow. It's the
Wow.
government. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because he even questions those planes that used to come over and they would write in the sky.
Yeah.
He's trying to
Yeah.
tell me that that's some chemical in there too.
Mm. Mm.
But they would
Mhm.
call them skywriters, and they would
Mm.
write things in the sky. And
Mhm.
people like, "Mm-mm, I don't think so. I think
Mm.
that was, stuff that are flowing on here
Mm.
and doing something." But anyway, looking back, what did this unexpected detour teach you about yourself and about life?
Yeah. It definitely taught me about the importance of helping others and looking for people who might be going through a hard time, right? Because when I think about how the community came around us and loved on us, it was just incredible. Even to the point where I would walk into a restaurant and I think people can just tell that like tornado survivors, like we just lost everything and that kind of thing. And the waiter was like, "Hey, are you guys okay?" To my wife and I. Where like, "Well, we were just about a tornado," and he got us Irish coffees. He paid for our meal, and he got us a gift card to have lunch on him the next time. And that generosity and that attune, like being in tune with people who are hurting. I feel like now I've been more open to that and looking for that, when in the past, it was just like, "Whatever, we're all just doing our thing," but now I'm looking for people who might be going through a hard time, who might be struggling with trauma, and that type of thing, and I really want to come alongside of them and just do even the smallest gesture makes a huge difference when you're going through that pain.
I'm sure emotionally you
Mhm.
deal with it,
Yeah.
especially so when people move out there,
Mhm.
do they tell them that,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people who move from, California and that type of thing. I was talking to a realtor the other day who said, like, yeah, whenever people come in from California, they're always like, now I've heard about these things called tornadoes. So that's part of, I mentioned to this realtor, I said, you give him, my course out and, I set up a coupon code for him so he could get a discount on that. Because I want everybody to have the awareness. Because if you don't, if you're from California, and you hear about a tornado watch and a tornado warning, like, what are you gonna do? Not be prepared. So I think
Right.
education's a big part of that.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. I hope the realtor got one of those bags in his safe space.
That's right.
Yeah, because he'll need one too.
Mhm. That's
Right
right.
in his office, since you said it can happen at any time.
That's right. Yep.
So the
Yep.
schools would have them too then, correct?
Well, I mean, not necessarily need the bags per se, but the education on what to do. I think the schools are going to have your backup generators and hopefully already a survival plan. It's more that I encourage the kids to go home and make sure that the parents have what they need. Because the schools, I mean, they're insured and they're got the government and everybody telling them exactly what to do during these kinds of things. And you do tornado warning tests, and so go out to the safe
Oh,
spot, so they
okay.
just like a fire drill in school, you
Just
do
like we
that.
used to have here when they said it was gonna be a bomb threat.
Mhm. Yep, yeah, so they
We would
practice
have
that.
that siren would go off,
Mhm,
and you'd have to go in the hallway, and
mhm.
you'd have to, uh, crisscross your legs and pull your head down.
Yep, yeah. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
lot like that, and then they,
and it was always the hallway too.
right, it's always, yeah, gotta be away from broken glass and things like that, so, yeah, I feel confident in the way that the schools are handling it. It's just that, each kid needs to be able to take it seriously so that even when they grow up and they become like me, an adult out there, and they go tornado after tornado, tornado watch after tornado watch, nothing happens, and then they get kind of lazy with it. They need to remember my story and say, "Well, actually, it can happen," you know?
Yeah. I hope they give, homeowners, insurance for these tornadoes, don't you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and we had insurance, which was super helpful, and I mean, it was a headache, to go through because you gotta label all the stuff that you lost,
Right.
but absolutely, that was, yeah, I don't know what we would do without insurance, so that was a
Yeah,
blessing.
I was wondering because I know
Mm,
here now we have flood insurance where I am
mm,
because when it would rain, it would
mhm,
flood some of the people's basements.
mm,
So we had to get flood insurance.
yeah.
I was wondering because I don't in California, I don't even think they have earthquake insurance.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure certain areas, so we didn't rebuild, like, the house got torn down, then we rebuilt, but we sold it because we just couldn't be back in that neighborhood,
Oh, okay.
and so we moved to a different place, but, I wonder what the insurance would have been like for someplace that's already been hit because, I mean, this is a myth, so it's not necessarily true that it, like, hits the same places, but it can. Well, some of the myth is that it can't hit the same place twice, but it can. And some of the myth is it always goes to the same place, well, that's not true either. But I'm just saying, like, if you rebuild your house, it can get hit again. So,
Have you ever noticed that it has hit the same place?
oh, absolutely. There's lots of stories like that. Not in my neighborhood, in my old
No,
neighborhood,
I'm
but
saying you
yeah.
growing up out there
Mhm,
because you're from
absolutely.
out
Yep,
you
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I grew up watching them. Like I said, like, I loved it. I was in the
storm
basement all the
chasers.
time. Yeah, storm chasers, and honestly, if that tornado woulda come during the day, I probably would have been out there looking at it.
That's what I asked you. I know I watched Twister too much, but they really have those Dopplers in the
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh,
Ooh.
yeah.
You
Yep,
know, I
and it
thought
did.
that was just a movie made up, okay?
No, they actually do a lot of good research, and if you watch the newest one, Twisters, that just came
Yeah,
out.
I watched that one. That's
Yeah,
funny.
that
And
one's
that
so good.
they have those Dopplers
Mhm.
going
Yeah, they do, it's
even
incredible.
though the guy was a bad guy and then he turned to be a good guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't give
I
away the
said,
ending.
"Oh, I'm not." But I noticed that I remember the first one, and they had those Dopplers that were going up.
Mhm. Yeah.
They were supposed to be chasing those,
Mm.
Twisters.
Yeah. Yeah, and that so they can get all that scientific information, which then can get the notice out earlier because we understand how tornadoes work. That's why I'm a huge fan of storm chasers because they do so much of that groundwork, that dangerous work that it takes so that we get our phones that alert or the tornado sirens that go off. And the reason why we get it so early is because of
And
them.
they're actually following these
Mhm.
twisters.
Oh, yeah. They're going around.
So
Yep.
what, they're right behind them or in front of them?
Yeah. Yeah, usually behind or,
Okay.
like south, like they know exactly where to position it because a lot of times, tornadoes go, west to east. And so they can be on that south side and watch it go from west to east without being in the way of it. But it's always dangerous.
The Dopplers too.
Yep. Yep.
The Dopplers will tell them, oh, see, now we talking about that movie. I remember that part.
Yep. Yep. It's a good one.
I remember that part
Twisters.
what you
Yeah.
said
Uh-huh.
about
Yeah.
north to east.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yep.
I remember some in front, some behind,
That's right. That's right.
or some on the side.
Yeah, they kinda triangulated it, so they could capture it, but it's great. I really appreciate all the work that they
It
do.
looks adventurous, that job. I don't think I
Yeah.
would want it, but no, for me, it looks really, really like it's like an adrenaline rush.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
I think if I was out there too, I would probably be looking at it because it gives you a rush to just
Yeah.
see this really happen in life.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
people are really chasing these twisters,
That's
and they're
right.
the scientists and everybody, and they're giving
Mhm.
you information.
That's right.
So they know before they're gonna come
Mhm.
because of those Dopplers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, John, thank you. Thank you for not just sharing your story, but for reminding us that in a single moment, life can shift. And yet, even in the middle of chaos, there is still clarity, there is still purpose, and there is still something worth holding on to. And to you listening, maybe your storm didn't come in the form of a tornado. Maybe it came in a diagnosis, a loss, a phone call, or a moment you didn't see coming. But here's what I want you to remember: you're still here, and that means your story is still being written. This has been the Unexpected Detour, where in life detours are inevitable. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, okay, okay.
Great.
Wait a
Thank
minute.
you. Oh.